And you're not just dressed in a tux for this video.
This is my normal evening wear, absolutely.
Yeah, your YouTube wear. Probably the one thing in the world that you could do to improve your long-term snare drum technique chops is to work on your daily snare drum warm-up. Think about it, you do it every day. If you can get more done in a smaller amount of time and you multiply that 7 days a week, 30 days a month, 365 days a year, all the difference. It can completely transform you. We have a legend, principal percussionist of the Metropolitan Opera, Greg Zuber, my colleague, my former teacher, but he's also worked with countless percussionists over the years as a faculty member at Juilliard, where he taught Jake Nisley, principal percussionist of the San Francisco Symphony, Matt Strauss in the Houston Symphony, and many more. Okay, cool. Without further ado, here's Greg in a tux. Greg Zuber, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So we have been playing the orchestra now together for 7 years. Nice. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I can't believe it. So I have a few questions for you, Greg.
Okay.
What is the purpose of a snare drum warm-up?
Snare drum warm-up has several purposes. Maybe the most immediate one is to get your blood flowing, get your muscles and tendons and ligaments, everything sort of flexible. So to reinforce your idea of your technique, to remind your nervous system what you've been training to do, how you normally approach something. But then beyond that, to build your capacity. That means your control, that means your strength, your endurance, your stamina, a special attention to the extremes of our playing.
It's not just to warm up, it's also to build your technique.
It's situational. Assuming you have the time, your routine daily hopefully begins with a warm-up. It's a healthy thing to do. And then if you're performing, you're warming up to give your best performance.
How long do you usually warm up for, on average?
On average, my snare drum warm-up is about 45 minutes.
Really?
So it's a pretty healthy blow, as we say.
Okay. Is 45 minutes just for general practice days, or is that for audition days? How does it adjust?
It's for every day. It only adjusts downwards if I don't have enough time.
Do you ever warm up just for an hour and a half?
An hour and a half, would be the kind of warm-up that would include etudes on top of the exercises. So maybe all of my exercises and then read through Delaclu's douze etudes.
Your warm-up has probably evolved over the past, however many years. We don't need to go into the number of years.
A lot of years.
If you could say, what is the generic content of your warm-up? What do you do during your warm-up?
So I have two main warm-ups. One is for single stroke, basically for rhythmic playing, and the other's for rolls. Today I'm going to talk about the single note warm-up. It evolved with the idea when I was a graduate student studying with Alan Abel. I wanted to have better control, note to note, of consistent executions, playing rhythm in time and consistency in terms of timbre and volume from one note to the next. And I wanted that from my loudest to my softest dynamics. The only way it's significantly evolved since then is really my approach to playing the snare drum, my approach to playing all of the instruments, which has been, over the years, more and more relaxed.
You try to use less tension, but that's grip and your actual technique, not the things you do in the warm-up. Or does it affect the things you do?
Well, so it means that what I'm doing in the warm-up is a little bit different than when I was 22 years old.
Cool. So can you show us a little bit of how that goes?
Sure.
Greg actually was nice enough to put all of these exercises into an 8-page packet for you, his entire warm-up. And you can go download that right now at robinopera.com/Greg Zuber. It's super interesting if you want to check it out. Go ahead and download it and then come back so you can follow along as Greg explains the warm-up.
So the basic routine is to repeat 8-measure phrases of 16th notes in 4/4 time. Special attention to stroke height, how high I play off the drum with the stick. I'm thinking, rather than in specific dynamics, of stroke height in inches. And I generally do 5 dynamics. I start loud and then I go soft. And the last stroke height or dynamic is basically as soft as you can play, which translates to as close to the drum, as low as stroke height as possible, hopefully 1/4 to 1/2 inch. I always do it on a pad, and I always do it with a metronome. And the pad is because there's no reason to listen to the drum doing this. It's just a mechanical, physical exercise. And the metronome is to help me stay perfect, or as close to perfect as we can.
And you have metronome at 150 with quarters and eighths.
Quarters and eighths, so you want a subdividing metronome. And actually it's better if you can use a subdividing metronome with earbuds, something you can hear through. That's the best way to do this.
You're really going for the top extreme and the bottom extreme of your technique so that you can expand kind of your comfort zone for the day or just in general?
Right. I mean, part of the idea is to identify the extreme demands of playing in the repertoire and then normalize those things. The full routine would be starting at quarter note equals 120 and going up by tens to 180, and then add another 5 to 185. So the first series would be 120, then 130, 140, 150, 160, 170, 180, and 185. 185 is because, for my taste, Scheherazade, the fourth movement and the third movement both, work best, the excerpts, the big parts that we have to be responsible for, I like about 184, 185 to the eighth note. And so if I can play the softest dynamic with control every day, it's part of my normal routine, then when I have to play performance of that and that excerpt for a lesson or an audition, I have the confidence that I do this every single day.
So what is going through your head while you're doing that? Are you thinking about grip or how it sounds?
I want as little pressure in the pinch part of my grip as possible, and then just support with this middle finger under the stick. That's my symphonic snare drum grip is basically 3 fingers. So I'm reviewing constantly to make sure that I'm achieving that. And then I'm paying attention to my stroke height. And then at the end of the 8 measures, I'm paying attention to lowering the stroke height, and so that I get a crisp dynamic change. This is a 10-inch Remo pad. Even on a 10-inch Remo pad, you can get a good sound or a bad sound. You can hear if it's slappy and harsh, or if it's resonant and dark and warm like you'd want it on your drum.
Do you feel like it's a weird transition when you go from the pad to the drum?
It's a little different, but not so much that it's a problem.
Cool. Well, you have an opera to get back to.
I do. We finished Cavalleria Rusticana, and now we have the whole Pagliacci adventure in front of us.
I see. And you're not just dressed in a tux for this video.
This is my normal evening wear, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
your
right.
YouTube wear. Thank you so much, Greg. Appreciate
pleasure.
it. Thank you to Greg so much for doing this. If you guys want to see Stephen White's warm-up video, you can go check it out on the YouTube channel. And remember, my snare drum practice course, which is going to help you build a daily snare drum practice routine, is open for enrollment right now. You can get that at robknopper.com/snare course. It's totally free, and the videos will come straight to your email. So go over there and enroll now. I'm so excited to see you guys in that snare course, and I will see you there.